Welcome back. This is going to be part 5 of the road, pages 70 to 92. We'll jump right in. The truck people had camped in the road itself. They built a fire there, and charred billets of wood lay stuck in the melted tar together with ash and bones. He squatted and held his hand over the tar, a faint warmth coming off it. He stood and looked down the road. Then he took the boy with him into the woods. "I want you to wait here," he said. "I won't be far away. I'll be able to hear you if you call." "Take me with you," the boy said. He looked as if he was going to cry. "No, I want you to wait here." "Please, Papa." "Stop it. I want you to do what I say. Take the gun." "I don't want the gun." "I didn't ask you if you wanted it. Take it." He walked out through the woods to where they'd left the cart. It was still lying there, but it had been plundered. The few things they hadn't taken scattered in the leaves, some books and toys belonging to the boy, his old shoes, and some rags of clothing. He righted the cart and put the boy's things in it and wheeled it out to the road. Then he went back. There was nothing there. Dried blood darkened the leaves. The boy's knapsack was gone. Coming back, he found the bones and the skin piled together with rocks over them. A pool of guts. He pushed at the bones with the toe of his shoe. They looked to have been boiled. No pieces of clothing. Dark was coming on again, and it was already very cold, and he turned and went out to where he had left the boy, and knelt, put his arms around him, and held him. They pushed the cart through the woods as far as the old road, and left it there, and headed south along the road, hurrying against the dark. The boy was stumbling, he was so tired, and the man picked him up, swung him onto his shoulders, and they went on. By the time they got to the bridge, there was scarcely light at all. He put the boy down, and they felt their way down the embankment. Under the bridge, he got out his lighter and lit it, and swept the ground with the flickering light. Sand and gravel washed up from the creek. He set down the knapsack and put away the lighter and took hold of the boy by the shoulders. He could just make him out in the darkness. "I want you to wait here," he said. "I'm going for wood. We have to have a fire." "I'm scared." "I know, but I'll just be a little ways and I'll be able to hear you, so if you get scared, you call me and I'll come right away." "I'm really scared." "The sooner I go, the sooner I'll be back, and we'll have a fire, and then you won't be scared anymore. Don't lie down. If you lie down, you'll fall asleep, and then if I call you, you won't answer, and I won't be able to find you. You understand?" The boy didn't answer. He was close to losing his temper with him, and then he realized that he was shaking his head in the dark. "Okay," he said, "okay." He scrambled up the bank and into the woods, holding his hands out in front of him. There was wood everywhere, dead limbs and branches scattered over the ground. He shuffled along, kicking them into a pile, and when he had an armful, he stooped and gathered them up and called the boy, and the boy answered him and talked him back to the bridge. They sat in the darkness while he shaved sticks into a pile with his knife, broke up the small branches with his hands. He took the lighter from his pocket and struck the wheel with his thumb. He used gasoline in the lighter, and it burned with a frail blue flame. And he bent and set the tinder alight and watched the fire climb upward through the wicker of limbs. He piled on more wood and bent and blew gently at the base of the little blaze and arranged the wood with his hands, shaping the fire just so. He made 2 more trips into the woods, dragging armloads of brush and limbs to the bridge and pushing them over the side. He could see the glow of the fire from some distance, but he didn't think it could be seen from the other road. Below the bridge, he could make out a dark pool of standing water among rocks, a rim of shelving ice. He stood on the bridge and shoved the last pile of wood over, his breath white in the glow of the firelight. Sat in the sand and inventoried the contents of the knapsack: the binoculars, a half-pint bottle of gasoline almost full, the bottle of water, a pair of pliers, 2 spoons. He set everything out in a row. There were 5 small tins of food, and he chose a can of sausages and one of corn, and he opened these with the little army can opener and set them at the edge of the fire, and they sat watching the labels char and curl. When the corn began to steam, he took the cans from the fire with the pliers. They sat bent over them with their spoons, eating slowly. The boy was nodding with sleep. When they'd eaten, he took the boy out on the gravel bar below the bridge, pushed away the thin shore ice with a stick, and they knelt there while he washed the boy's face and hair. The water was so cold the boy was crying. They moved down the gravel to find fresh water, and he washed his hair again as well as he could, and finally stopped because the boy was moaning with the cold of it. He dried him with the blanket, kneeling there in the glow of the light with the shadow of the bridge's understructure broken across the palisade of tree trunks beyond the creek. "This is my child," he said. "I wash a dead man's brains out of his hair. That's my job." Then he wrapped him in the blanket and carried him to the fire. The boy sat tottering. The man watched him that he not topple into the flames. He kicked holes in the sand for the boy's hips and shoulder where he would sleep, and he sat holding him while he tousled his hair before the fire to dry it. All this like some ancient anointing. So be it. Evoke the forms. Where you've nothing else, construct ceremonies out of the air and breathe upon them. He woke in the night with a cold and rose and broke up more wood for the fire, the shapes of the small tree limbs burning incandescent orange in the coals. He blew the flames to life and piled on the wood and sat with his legs crossed, leaning against the stone pier of the bridge. Heavy limestone blocks laid up without mortar. Overhead the ironwork brown with rust, the hammered rivets, the wooden sleepers and cross planks. The sand where he sat was warm to the touch, but the night beyond the fire was sharp with the cold. He got up and dragged fresh wood in under the bridge. He stood listening. The boy didn't stir. He sat beside him and stroked his pale and tangled hair. Golden chalice. Good to house a god. Please don't tell me how the story ends. When he looked out again at the darkness beyond the bridge, it was snowing. All the wood they had to burn was small wood, and the fire was good for no more than an hour, or perhaps a bit more. He dragged the rest of the brush in under the bridge and broke it up, standing on the limbs and cracking them to length. He thought the noise would wake the boy, but it didn't. The wet wood hissed in the flames. The snow continued to fall. In the morning they would see if there were tracks in the road or not. This was the first human being other than the boy that he'd spoken to in more than a year. My brother at last. The reptilian calculations in those cold and shifting eyes, the gray and rotting teeth, claggy with human flesh, who has made of the world a lie every word. When he woke again, the snow had stopped, and the grainy dawn was shaping out the naked woodlands beyond the bridge, the trees black against the snow. He was lying curled up with his hands between his knees, and he sat up, got the fire going, and he set a can of beets in the embers. The boy lay huddled on the ground, watching him. The new snow lay in skiffs all through the woods, along the limbs, and cupped in the leaves, all of it already gray with ash. They hiked out to where they'd left the cart, and he put the knapsack in and pushed it out to the road. No tracks. They stood listening in the utter silence. Then they set out along the road through the gray slush, the boy at his side with his hands in his pockets. They trudged all day, the boy in silence. By afternoon, the slush had melted off the road, and by evening it was dry. They didn't stop. How many miles? 10, 12? They'd used to play quoits in the road with 4 big steel washers they'd found in a hardware store, but these were gone with everything else. That night they camped in a ravine and built a fire against a small stone bluff and ate their last tin of food. He'd put it by because it was the boy's favorite, pork and beans. They watched it bubble slowly in the coals, and he retrieved the tin with pliers, and they ate in silence. He rinsed the empty tin with water and gave it to the child to drink, and that was that. Should have been more careful, he said. The boy didn't answer. You have to talk to me. Okay. You wanted to know what the bad guys looked like. Now you know. It may happen again. My job is to take care of you. I was appointed by God to do that. I will kill anyone who touches you. Do you understand? Yes. He sat there cowled in the blanket. After a while he looked up. Are we still the good guys? He said. Yes, we're still the good guys. And we always will be? Yes, we always will be. Okay. In the morning they came up out of the ravine and took to the road again. He'd carved the boy a flute from a piece of roadside cane, and he took it from his coat and gave it to him. The boy took it wordlessly. After a while he fell back, and after a while the man could hear him playing. A formless music for the age to come. Or perhaps the last music on earth, called up from out of the ashes of its ruin. The man turned and looked back at him. He was lost in concentration. The man thought he seemed some sad and solitary changing child announcing the arrival of a traveling spectacle in shire and village who does not know that behind him the players have all been carried off by wolves. He sat cross-legged in the leaves at the crest of a ridge and glassed the valley below them with binoculars. The still poured shape of a river, the dark brick stacks of a mill, slate roofs, an old wooden water tower bound with iron hoops. No smoke, no movement of life. He lowered the glasses and sat watching. What do you see? The boy said. Nothing. He handed the binoculars across. The boy slung the strap over his neck and put them to his eyes and adjusted the wheel. Everything about them so still. I see smoke, he said. Where? Past those buildings. What buildings? The boy handed the glasses back and he refocused them. The palest wisp. Yes, he said. I see it. Well, what should we do, Papa? I think we should take a look. We just have to be careful. If it's a commune, they'll have barricades, but it may just be refugees. Like us. Yes, like us. What if it's the bad guys? We have to take a risk. We need to find something to eat. They left the cart in the woods and crossed a railroad track and came down a steep bank through dead black ivy. He carried the pistol in his hand. Stay close, he said. He did. They moved through the streets like sappers, one block at a time. A faint smell of wood smoke on the air. They waited in a store and watched the street, but nothing moved. They went through the trash and rubble. Cabinet drawers pulled out into the floor, paper, bloated cardboard boxes. They found nothing. All the stores were rifled years ago, the glass mostly gone from the windows. Inside it was all but too dark to see. They climbed the ribbed steel stairs of an escalator, the boy holding on to his hand. A few dusty suits hanging on a rack. They looked for shoes, but there were none. They shuffled through the trash, but there was nothing for any of use to them. When they came back, he slipped the suit coats from their hangers, shook them out, and folded them across his arm. Let's go, he said. He thought there had to be something overlooked, but there wasn't. They kicked through the trash in the aisles of a food market, old packaging and papers and the eternal ash. He scoured the shelves looking for vitamins. He opened the door of a walk-in cooler with the sour, rank smell of the dead washed out of the darkness, and he closed it again quickly. He stood in the street. He looked at the gray sky, faint plume of their breath. The boy was exhausted. He took him by the hand. We have to look some more, he said. We have to keep looking. The houses at the edge of the town offered little more. They climbed the back steps into a kitchen and began to go through the cabinets. The cabinet doors all standing open, a can of baking powder. He stood there looking at it. They went through the drawers of a sideboard in the dining room. They walked into the living room, scrolls of fallen wallpaper lying on the floor like ancient documents. He left the boy sitting on the stairs, holding the coats while he went up. Everything smelled of damp and rot. In the first bedroom, a dried corpse with the covers about its neck, remnants of rotted hair on the pillow. He took hold of the lower hem of the blanket, towed it off the bed, and shook it out and folded it under his arm. He went through the bureaus and the closets, a summer dress on a wire hanger. Nothing. He went back down the stairs. It was getting dark. He took the boy by the hand. They went out the front door to the street. At the top of the hill, he turned and studied the town. Darkness coming fast, darkness and cold. He put two of the coats over the boy's shoulders, swallowing them up, parka and all. I'm really hungry, Papa. I know. Will we be able to find our stuff? Yes, I know where it is. What if somebody finds it? They won't find it. I hope they don't. They won't. Come on. What was that? I didn't hear anything. Listen. I don't hear anything. They listened. Then in the distance he heard a dog bark. He turned and looked toward the darkening town. It's a dog, he said. A dog? Yeah. Where did it come from? I don't know. We're not going to kill it, are we, Papa? No, we're not going to kill it. He looked down at the boy, shivering in his coats. He bent over and kissed him on his gritty brow. We won't hurt the dog, he said. I promise. He slept in a parked car beneath an overpass with the suit coats and the blankets piled over them. In the darkness and the silence, he could see bits of light that appeared random on the night grid. The higher floors of the buildings were all dark. He'd have to carry up water. He could be smoked out. What were they eating? God knows. They sat wrapped in the coats looking out the window. Who are they, Papa? I don't know. He woke in the night and lay listening. He couldn't remember where he was. The thought made him smile. Where are we? He said. Oh, man. The thought made him smile. Where are we? He said. What is it, Papa? Nothing. We're okay. Go to sleep. We're going to be okay, aren't we, Papa? Yes, we are. And nothing bad is going to happen to us. That's right. Because we're carrying the fire. Yes, because we're carrying the fire. In the morning, cold rain was falling. It gusted over the car, even under the overpass, and it danced in the road beyond. They sat and watched through the water on the glass. By the time it had slacked, a good part of the day was gone. They left the coats and the blanket on the floor of the back seat and went up the road to search through more of the houses. Wood smoke on the damp air. They never heard the dog again. They found some utensils and a few pieces of clothing, a sweatshirt, some plastic they could use for a tarp. He was sure they were being watched, but he saw no one. In the pantry they came upon part of a sack of cornmeal that rats had been at long ago. He sifted the meal through a section of window screen and collected a small handful of dried turds, and they built a fire in the concrete porch of the house and made cakes of the meal and cooked them over a piece of tin. Then they ate them slowly, one by one. He wrapped a few remaining in a paper and put them in the knapsack. The boy was sitting on the steps when he saw something move at the rear of the house across the road. A face was looking at him. A boy about his age, wrapped in an outsized wool coat with the sleeves turned back. He stood up. He ran across the road and up the drive. No one there. He looked toward the house, and then he ran back to the bottom of the yard through the dead weeds to a still black creek. "Come back," he called. "I won't hurt you." He was standing there crying when his father came sprinting across the road and seized him by the arm. "What are you doing?" he hissed. "What are you doing?" "There's a little boy, Papa, a little boy." "There's no little boy. What are you doing?" "Yes, there is. I saw him." "I told you to stay put. Didn't I tell you? Now we've got to go. Come on." "I just wanted to see him, Papa. I just wanted to see him." The man took him by the arm, and they went back up through the yard. The boy would not stop crying, and he would not stop looking back. "Come on," the man said. "We've got to go." "I want to see him, Papa." "There's no one to see. Do you want to die? Is that what you want?" "I don't care," the boy said, sobbing. "I don't care." The man stopped. He stopped, squatted, and held him. "I'm sorry," he said. "Don't say that. You mustn't say that." They made their way back through the wet streets to the viaduct and collected the coats and the blanket from the car and went on to the railway embankment, where they climbed up, crossed the tracks into the woods, and got the cart and headed out to the highway. "What if that little boy doesn't have anybody to take care of him?" he said. "What if he doesn't have a papa?" There were people there. They were just hiding. He pushed the cart out into the road and stood there. He could see the tracks of the truck through the wet ash, faint and washed out, but there. He thought that he could smell them. The boy was pulling at his coat. "Papa," he said. "What?" "I'm afraid for that little boy." "I know, but he'll be all right." "We should go get him, Papa. We could get him and take him with us. We could take him. We could take the dog. The dog could catch something to eat." "We can't." "And I'd give that little boy half of my food." "Stop it. We can't." He was crying again. "What about the little boy?" he sobbed. "What about the little boy?" At crossroads, they sat in the dusk, and he spread out the pieces of the map in the road and studied them. He put his finger down. "This is us," he said, "right here." The boy wouldn't look. He sat studying the twisted matrix of routes in red and black with his finger at the junction where he thought they might be, as if he'd see their small selves crouching there. "We could go back," the boy said softly. "It's not so far. It's not too late." They made a dry camp in a woodlot not far from the road. They could find no sheltered place to make a fire that would not be seen, so they made none. They ate each of them 2 of the cornmeal cakes, and they slept together, huddled on the ground in the coats and blankets. He held the child, and after a while the child stopped shivering, and after a while he slept. The dog that he remembers followed us for 2 days. I tried to coax it to come, but it would not. I made a noose of wire to catch it. There were 3 cartridges in the pistol, none to spare. She walked away down the road. The boy looked after her, and then he looked at me, and then he looked at the dog, and he began to cry and to beg for the dog's life, and I promised I would not hurt the dog. A trellis of a dog with the hide stretched over it. The next day, it was gone. That's the dog he remembers. He doesn't remember any little boys. He put a handful of dried raisins in a cloth in his pocket, and at noon, they sat in the dead grass by the side of the road and ate them. The boy looked at him. "That's all there is, isn't it?" he said. "Yes." "Are we going to die now?" "No." "What are we going to do?" "We're going to drink some water. Then we're going to keep going down the road." "Okay." In the evening, they tramped out across a field, trying to find a place where the fire would not be seen, dragging the cart behind them over the ground. So little of promise in that country. Tomorrow they would find something to eat. Night overtook them on a muddy road. They crossed into a field and plodded on toward a distant stand of trees, skylighted stark and black against the last of the visible world. By the time they got there, it was dark of night. He held the boy's hand, kicked up limbs and brush, and got a fire going. The wood was damp, but he shaved the dead bark off with his knife, and he stacked brush and sticks all about to dry in the heat. Then he spread the sheet of plastic on the ground, and he got the coats and blankets from the cart, and he took off their damp and muddy shoes, and they sat there in silence with the hands out held to the flames. He tried to think of something to say, but he could not. He'd had this feeling before, beyond the numbness and the dull despair. The world shrinking down about a raw core of parsable entities. The names of things slowly following those things into oblivion. Colors, the names of birds, things to eat. Finally, the names of things one believed to be true, more fragile than he would have thought. How much was gone already? A sacred idiom shorn of its reference and so of its reality, drawing down like something trying to preserve heat and time to wink out forever. They slept through the night in their exhaustion, and in the morning the fire was dead and black on the ground. He pulled on his muddy shoes and went to gather wood, blowing on his cupped hands. So cold. It could be November. It could be later. He got a fire going and walked out to the edge of the woodlot and stood looking over the countryside, the dead fields, a barn in the distance. They hiked out along the dirt road and along a hill where a house had once stood. It had burned long ago. The rusted shape of a furnace standing in the black water of the cellar. Sheets of charred metal roofing crumpled in the fields where the wind had blown it. In the barn, they scavenged a few handfuls of some grain he did not recognize out of the dusty floor of a metal hopper, and stood eating it, dust and all. Then they set out across the fields toward the road. They followed a stone wall past the remains of an orchard. The trees in their ordered rows gnarled and black, and the fallen limbs thick on the ground. He stopped and looked across the fields. Wind in the east. Soft ash moving in the furrows, stopping, moving again. He'd seen it all before. Shapes of dried blood in the stubble grass and gray coils of viscera where the slain had been field-dressed and hauled away. The wall beyond held a frieze of human heads, all faced alike, dried and caved with taut grins and shrunken eyes. They wore gold rings in their leather ears, and in the wind their sparse and ratty hair twisted about on the skulls. The teeth in their sockets like dental molds, crude tattoos etched in some home-brewed woad faded in the beggared sunlight, spiders, swords, targets, a dragon, runic slogans, creeds misspelled, old scars with old motifs stitched along their borders. The heads not trunched and shapeless had been flayed of their skins, and the raw skulls painted and signed across the forehead in a scrawl. And a white bone skull had the plate sutures etched carefully in ink like a blueprint for assembly. He looked back at the boy, standing by the cart in the wind. He looked at the dry grass where it moved and at the dark and twisted trees in their rows, a few shreds of clothing blown against the wall, everything gray in the ash. He walked along the wall passing the masks in a last review, and through a stile and out to where the boy was waiting. He put his arm around his shoulder. "Okay," he said. "Let's go." He'd come to see a message in each such late history, a message and a warning, and so this tableau of the slain and the devoured proved to be. He woke in the morning and turned over in the blanket and looked back down the road through the trees the way they'd come, in time to see the marchers appear 4 abreast, dressed in clothing of every description, all wearing red scarves to their necks, red or orange, as close to red as they could find. He put his hand on the boy's head. "Shh," he said. "What is it, Papa?" "People on the road. Keep your face down. Don't look." No smoke from the dead fire. Nothing to be seen in the cart. He wallowed into the ground and lay watching across his forearm. An army in tennis shoes, tramping, carrying 3-foot lengths of pipe with leather wrappings, lanyards at their wrists. Some of the pipes were threaded through with lengths of chain fitted at their ends, with every manner of bludgeon. They clanked past, marching with a swaying gait like wind-up toys, bearded, their breath smoking through their masks. "Shh," he said, "shh." The phalanx following carried spears or lances tasseled with ribbons, the long blades hammered out of truck springs in some crude forge up-country. The boy lay with his face in his arms, terrified. They passed 200 feet away, the ground shuddering lightly, tramping. Beyond him came wagons drawn by slaves in harness and piled with goods of war, and after that, women, perhaps a dozen in number, some of them pregnant, and lastly, a supplementary consort of catamites, ill-clothed against the cold, and fitted in dog collars and yoked to each other. All passed on. They lay listening. "Are they gone, Papa?" "Yes, they're gone." "Did you see them?" "Yes." "Were they the bad guys?" "Yeah, they were the bad guys." "There's a lot of them, those bad guys." "Yes, there are, but they're gone." They stood and brushed themselves off, listening to the silence in the distance. "Where are they going, Papa?" "I don't know. They're on the move. It's not a good sign." "Why isn't it a good sign?" "It just isn't. We need to get the map and take a look."